Most fans know Dennis Collins as Richard Rawlings' car-dealing buddy on Fast and Loud, but behind his Texas charm lies a world of extraordinary secrets. From secretly owning America's first post-war sports car to breaking land speed records with stolen fuel modifications, Collins has lived an automotive life stranger than fiction. Here are 15 things you never knew about Dennis Collins from Fast and Loud. Fact 1. His childhood was shaped by Matchbox cars. Most people remember playing with toy cars as kids, but for Dennis Collins, those tiny metal vehicles on his bedroom floor became the blueprint for a multi-million-dollar automotive empire. Collins has openly shared that his lifelong obsession with anything that has wheels and an engine started in the most humble way possible, with Matchbox and Hot Wheels cars scattered across what he calls a faux city carpet rug in his childhood bedroom. While other kids might have moved on from toy cars to video games or sports, Collins was already living and breathing the automotive world in miniature form. The specific detail about playing cops and robbers on that carpet rug isn't just a cute childhood memory. It reveals something deeper about how Collins's mind worked, even as a young boy. He wasn't just pushing cars around randomly. He was creating stories, scenarios, and adventures that all revolved around automobiles. That imaginative play on a bedroom carpet was actually the foundation for understanding cars not just as transportation, but as characters in larger stories, which is exactly how he would later approach his career in the automotive world. What makes this fact particularly fascinating is how Collins himself describes the transformation from that childhood bedroom to his real-life success in Dallas, Texas. He says he somehow managed to maximize his own cool factor over the years and turn that faux city carpet rug into the real-life city of Dallas and beyond. This isn't just poetic language, it's a direct connection between his childhood imagination and his adult reality. The same creativity and passion that drove him to create elaborate car adventures on his bedroom floor would later drive him to seek out the rarest and most interesting vehicles in the world. The transition from Matchbox cars to real cars wasn't accidental or sudden. Those early years of imaginative play with toy vehicles were actually training his eye for automotive excellence and his understanding of what makes certain cars special or desirable. In many ways, Dennis Collins never really stopped being that kid. Playing with cars on the carpet, he just upgraded to the real thing and turned his childhood passion into a legitimate business empire that would eventually make him famous on television. Fact 2. He arrived at high school in style. Picture this scene. You're a sophomore in high school, and you've finally gotten permission to drive your first car to school. You pull into the student parking lot slowly, maybe hoping a few classmates will notice your ride, only to realize that absolutely nobody is looking at you because everyone's eyes are completely fixed on a clean blue 1966 Ford Mustang rumbling into the same lot. That blue Mustang belonged to Dennis Collins, and this moment perfectly captures how he established his reputation for having serious automotive style long before he became famous on television. The specific details of this high school entrance are particularly telling because Collins himself has shared this story as a defining moment in his life. He describes pulling into the parking lot and getting out slowly, clearly anticipating that people might pay attention to whatever car he was driving that day. However, instead of being the center of attention, he found himself watching along with everyone else as that blue 1966 Mustang made its entrance. Rather than being disappointed or jealous, this moment seems to have crystallized something important for Collins about the power that the right car can have in capturing people's imagination and respect. The fact that it was specifically a 1966 Ford Mustang makes this story even more significant when you consider Collins's later career specializing in classic American muscle cars. The 1966 Mustang represents one of the most iconic years for that particular model, falling right in the sweet spot of the first-generation Mustangs that are now considered highly desirable classics. For a high school student to be driving such a car in the first place suggests either exceptional family resources or an already developing understanding of automotive value and style. Collins has described this experience as part of how he managed to maximize his own cool factor over the years, and it's clear that witnessing the impact of that blue Mustang taught him valuable lessons about how the right vehicle can command attention and respect. This high school parking lot moment was essentially his first real-world education in the social dynamics of car culture, and it helped shape his understanding of what makes certain vehicles special enough to stop traffic and turn heads. Fact 3. He's the only private owner of something extraordinary. Dennis Collins owns what he believes to be the only privately owned 2013 Lamborghini Super Trofeo in the world, a distinction that came about through what can only be described as exceptionally clever timing and financial maneuvering. The Lamborghini Super Trofeo wasn't just any limited production supercar. It was a track-only racing machine that Lamborghini built exclusively for their one-make racing series, and the company had strict policies about only selling these cars to authorized dealerships and racing teams, never to private individuals. The story of how Collins acquired this ultra-rare vehicle involves what he describes as a shrewd bank loan maneuver that took advantage of a very specific set of circumstances. When one of these Super Trofeos was being returned to Lamborghini, Collins managed to intercept the transaction by working through a bank and securing the proper paperwork before the car could go back to the manufacturer. He explains that before the car could return to Lamborghini, he was able to buy it through the bank and get the manufacturer's statement of origin on his desk, making him what he believes to be the only private individual to own one of these machines. What makes this acquisition even more remarkable is the extreme rarity of the Super Trofeo itself. Only 40 of these cars were ever manufactured, and they were built specifically for Lamborghini's racing program rather than for street use or private ownership. The Super Trofeo was based on the Gallardo platform but heavily modified for track use, featuring a 5.2-liter naturally aspirated V10 engine producing 620 horsepower, along with extensive aerodynamic modifications and racing-specific components that made it unsuitable for normal road driving. After acquiring the car, Collins didn't just leave it as a track-only machine. His team performed extensive modifications to make it street-legal and drivable, including raising the suspension by 1.5 inches, installing street tires, adding a passenger seat, completely remapping the engine computer, and adding rear-view mirrors. Collins has mentioned that they also detailed the car extensively and fixed all the panel gaps to make it better fitting than it was when it originally left the factory, essentially creating what might be the most refined Super Trofeo in existence. Fact 4. He owns the very first American sports car. Dennis Collins currently owns what many automotive historians consider to be a piece of American automotive history that predates even the legendary Chevrolet Corvette, the very first Nash Healey ever produced in 1950. This particular car holds the distinction of being widely regarded as the first true post-war American sports car from a major automaker, beating the Corvette to market by a full 2 years and establishing a benchmark that would influence American sports car development for decades to come. The Nash Healey came about through an unlikely partnership that began during a chance meeting on the ocean liner of Queen Elizabeth. In late 1949, between Nash president George Mason and British sports car maker Donald Healey. Mason wanted to improve Nash's conservative image, while Healey was looking for American V8 engines for his projects after General Motors had turned him down for Cadillac powertrains. By the time their ship reached shore, they had agreed to create a sports car that would combine American mechanical reliability with British sports car expertise and styling. The resulting car was truly a transatlantic collaboration, featuring a Nash Ambassador inline 6-cylinder engine that Healey modified with a high-compression aluminum cylinder head and twin carburetors, boosting power from 112 horsepower to 125 horsepower. The car used a modified Healey Silverstone chassis that was widened and reinforced, with an aluminum body designed by Healey but built by Panelcraft Sheet Metal Company in Birmingham, England. Final assembly took place at Healey's facility before the cars were shipped to Nash dealerships in America. What makes Collins's ownership of the very first Nash Healey particularly significant is that this specific car represents the beginning of serious American sports car manufacturing. While smaller companies like Crosley had produced sports cars and custom builders had created limited runs, the Nash Healey was the first time a major American automaker had committed to producing a true sports car for the general market. The car debuted at the Chicago Auto Show in February 1951 with a price tag of $3,767, which was considered extremely expensive at the time, and helped establish the precedent for American sports cars as premium luxury vehicles rather than basic transportation. Fact 5. He maintains a registry for dead cars. Dennis Collins operates what might be one of the most unusual automotive registries in the world, dedicated specifically to tracking down Nash Healey cars with an advertisement that reads like something out of an old Western movie, Nash Healey's Wanted Dead or Alive. This isn't just casual collecting or hobby documentation. It's a systematic effort to locate and catalog every single Nash Healey built between 1950 and 1954, regardless of what condition these rare cars might be in when they're discovered. The dead or alive language perfectly captures Collins' approach to these vehicles because he genuinely wants to find Nash Healeys, whether they're pristine, restored examples, running barn finds, or complete rust buckets that most people would consider beyond saving. His registry actively seeks out any Nash Healey from the entire 4-year production run, which means he's looking for roadsters, coupes, and even race cars that might be scattered in garages, junkyards, or private collections around the world. The registry doesn't discriminate based on condition, model year, or completeness if it's a Nash Healey. Collins and his team want to know about it. What makes this registry particularly fascinating is that it goes beyond just buying and selling cars. Collins and his team also actively purchase Nash Healey parts, which means they're essentially creating a comprehensive database of not just complete cars, but also the individual components that make up these vehicles. This approach demonstrates an almost archaeological level of dedication to preserving the history and legacy of the Nash Healey marque, treating each discovery as a piece of automotive history worth documenting and potentially preserving. The registry reflects Collins's deep understanding of how rare these cars actually are, with only about 500 Nash Healeys produced during their entire 4-year run. When you're dealing with numbers that small, every single example becomes historically significant, whether it's a Concours quality restoration or a parts car sitting in someone's backyard. Collins has made it his mission to account for as many of these vehicles as possible, creating what amounts to a census of one of America's most important early sports cars. The registry serves both as a resource for other Nash Healey enthusiasts and as Collins's personal database for tracking the location and condition of these increasingly valuable and historically significant automobiles. Fact 6. He won an international award in Kuwait. Dennis Collins achieved something that most car collectors and restorers can only dream of when his meticulously restored 1958 Austin Healey, nicknamed Goldie, won Best Restored Car at the Kuwait Concours d'Elegance, one of the most prestigious automotive competitions in the world. This wasn't just a local car show or regional competition. The Kuwait Concours d'Elegance attracts the finest classic automobiles from around the globe and features an international panel of expert judges who are among the most knowledgeable and demanding in the automotive world. The car that earned Collins this honor has an extraordinary backstory that makes the award even more significant. Goldie was originally built as a special show car for the October 1958 London Motor Show at Earl's Court, where it was designed to be the absolute showstopper on the Austin Healey display floor. The car featured a distinctive ivory paint finish, with all of its brightwork plated in 24-karat gold, including every tiny trimming washer and screw, the wire wheels, disc brakes, bumpers, and instruments. The interior was equally extravagant. Trimmed in reversed champagne, Connolly kid leather, with champagne diadem mink adorning the seat inserts and back panels. What makes Collins's restoration achievement particularly impressive is that he had to recreate all of these incredibly detailed and expensive original specifications. The restoration involved completely rebuilding the car from top to bottom, including accurate reproduction of the lavish kid leather and mink interior, sending the bumpers and larger brightwork pieces back to England for proper replating, and having custom wire spoke wheels made specifically for the car. The level of attention to detail required to win at the Kuwait Concours d'Elegance is extraordinary. As judges examine every aspect of a vehicle with microscopic scrutiny, the significance of this award was not lost on Collins's friend Richard Rawlings, who took to social media to congratulate him, writing, "What an honor among these prestigious judges, and against some of the finest cars in the world." The Kuwait Concours d'Elegance typically features entries that represent millions of dollars in automotive history, from rare Ferraris and Bugattis to custom coach-built classics, making Collins's victory with Goldie a testament to both his restoration skills and his understanding of what it takes to compete at the highest levels of the classic car world. Fact 7. He chased one car for 25 years. Dennis Collins has shared one of the most remarkable stories of automotive persistence in collector car history, involving a specific Austin Healey that he literally pursued for over 25 years through what can only be described as the most patient and methodical stalking campaign ever conducted in the name of car collecting. Collins has openly admitted that he chased this particular car for more than 2.5 decades, calling up the same owners year after year with the same question about whether they might be ready to sell their prized Austin Healey. The details of this quarter-century pursuit reveal just how determined Collins can be when he sets his sights on a specific vehicle. Rather than giving up after the first few rejections or moving on to find a similar car elsewhere, Collins made it an annual tradition to contact these owners and politely inquire about their interest in selling. This wasn't a casual or occasional follow-up, it was a systematic, year-by-year campaign that demonstrates an almost unbelievable level of patience and dedication to acquiring one specific automobile. Collins has explained that he kept calling the owners each year until they finally retired, at which point their circumstances changed enough that they were finally willing to consider parting with their cherished Austin Healey. The moment Collins learned that the owners had retired, he immediately called them up and was finally able to negotiate a deal for the car that he had been pursuing for more than 2 decades. The timing suggests that Collins had been carefully tracking not just the car itself, but also the life circumstances of its owners, waiting for the right moment when they might be more receptive to selling. The story becomes even more impressive when you consider what Collins did with the car after finally acquiring it. Rather than simply adding it to his collection as a trophy representing his persistence, he invested significant time and resources into a complete restoration that brought the Austin Healey back to show-quality condition. The restoration work was so thorough and expertly executed that the car went on to win major awards at prestigious automotive events, proving that Collins's 25-year pursuit wasn't just about the thrill of the chase. It was about recognizing and preserving something truly special that deserved to be restored to its original glory. Fact 8. He broke a legendary cross-country record. Dennis Collins and Richard Rawlings accomplished something that automotive enthusiasts had been attempting for decades when they broke the legendary 1979 Cannonball Run record in May 2007, completing the cross-country drive from New York City to Los Angeles in just 31 hours and 59 minutes. This achievement represented breaking a record that had stood for 28 years, originally set at 32 hours and 51 minutes, and their new time meant they averaged an incredible 87.6 miles per hour across the entire 2,811-mile journey. The vehicle they chose for this record-breaking attempt was a 1999 Ferrari 550 Maranello, specifically a black model that they had modified with extra fuel cells to handle the enormous distances between gas stations during their non-stop cross-country sprint. The Ferrari 550 was an ideal choice for this type of endurance run because it combined the high-speed capability needed to maintain their record pace with the reliability and comfort necessary to survive nearly 32 hours of continuous driving across the American continent. What makes this record attempt particularly interesting is the context in which it happened. Collins and Rawlings decided to make their attempt after taking a bet at the start line of the 2007 Bull Run Rally, essentially turning what could have been a casual conversation into a serious record-breaking effort. The decision to attempt the record wasn't something they had been planning for months or years. It was a spontaneous challenge that they decided to accept based on their confidence in their driving abilities and their faith in the Ferrari's performance capabilities. The original Cannonball Run record they broke had been set by David Hines and David Yarborough in 1979, and it had become something of a holy grail for underground racing enthusiasts who understood the incredible difficulty of maintaining such high average speeds across the diverse terrain and traffic conditions between New York and Los Angeles. Collins and Rawlings not only broke this long-standing record, but did so by a significant margin of 52 minutes, proving that their attempt was more than just a lucky run. It was a genuinely superior performance that demonstrated exceptional planning, driving skill, and mechanical reliability over an extraordinary distance. Fact 9. He owned 200-plus cars of one brand. Dennis Collins has achieved something that borders on the obsessive when it comes to British sports cars, having owned or worked on more than 200 different Healey vehicles throughout his career in the automotive business. This isn't just casual collecting or occasional restoration work. It represents a level of specialization and dedication to a single mark that has made Collins one of the world's foremost experts on everything related to the Healey brand and its various models produced over the decades. The scope of Collins' involvement with Healey vehicles becomes even more impressive when you consider the variety of models that the company produced during its existence. Healey manufactured 200 different sports car models throughout their history, and Collins has remarkably bought and sold examples of all of them at various points in his career. This means he has hands-on experience with virtually every variation, year, and configuration that Healey ever produced, from the earliest post-war models through the final Austin Healey vehicles that rolled off the production line. Collins has been particularly open about his passion for these British sports cars, stating in interviews that he owns quite a few Healeys and would love to add more to his collection if they become available at good prices. He has specifically mentioned that the Austin Healey A4 is his favorite model within the Healey lineup, demonstrating the kind of detailed preferences that only come from extensive experience with multiple examples of the same manufacturer's products. The fact that Collins has maintained this level of involvement with Healey vehicles for decades, while simultaneously running his Jeep business and participating in television shows, speaks to both his incredible energy and his genuine passion for these particular sports cars. His collection includes some of his favorite and most valuable Healeys, including what he describes as his oldest Healey, which he has owned for over 25 years. This long-term ownership pattern suggests that while Collins is willing to buy and sell most of his automotive inventory, certain special Healeys hold enough significance for him that he keeps them as permanent parts of his collection rather than treating them as business inventory that eventually gets sold to other collectors. Fact 10. His house had a private baseball field. Dennis Collins' former estate in Texas was far more than just an impressive home with a big garage. It was a sprawling 2-acre property that included amenities most people would associate with a luxury resort or private country club rather than a residential home. While the climate-controlled 20-car garage might have been the most obvious feature for automotive enthusiasts, the property also boasted a full-size private baseball field that served a dual purpose as a helicopter landing pad, essentially giving Collins his own personal airfield right in his backyard. The baseball field wasn't just a decorative lawn feature or a small batting cage, it was a legitimate, regulation-sized diamond that could accommodate actual games, complete with proper field dimensions and professional quality maintenance. The fact that it was designed to double as a helicopter landing pad demonstrates the kind of forward-thinking luxury that characterized the entire estate, allowing Collins to host both sporting events and aviation activities in the same space, depending on his needs or the preferences of his guests. Beyond the baseball field and the famous garage, the estate featured what Collins described as a guest wing that was essentially a complete house unto itself. This wasn't just a spare bedroom with an attached bathroom. The guest wing included its own living room, full kitchen, bedroom, and upstairs loft, providing enough space and amenities that guests could essentially live independently from the main house. The guest wing was so comprehensive that it could have functioned as a standalone residence, giving visitors complete privacy and all the comforts they would need for extended stays. The main house itself was a 7,964-square-foot ranch-style home that complemented these extraordinary outdoor features with equally impressive indoor amenities. The property also included a country club-style swimming pool and world-class outdoor facilities that made the entire estate feel more like a private resort than a typical residential property. When Collins eventually decided to sell this remarkable estate in 2017, he listed it for $1,988,000, and the unique combination of automotive facilities, recreational amenities, and luxury accommodations attracted significant attention from potential buyers who understood they were looking at a truly one-of-a-kind property. Fact 11. He bought a $2 million car for $100 Kelvin. Dennis Collins pulled off what might be one of the greatest automotive deals in collector car history when he purchased the legendary Lawn Man Mustang Superboss for less than $100,000, despite the fact that similar models have sold for more than $2 million at auction. This particular Mustang wasn't just any high-performance Ford. It was technically known as the Superboss and is widely considered by the Mustang community to be arguably the most expensive Mustang in the world based on its rarity, provenance, and historical significance. The Lawn Man Mustang earned its nickname and its extraordinary value through a combination of factors that made it virtually irreplaceable in the world of Ford muscle cars. Collins has revealed that part of what made this particular Superboss so significant was the fact that it had toured Vietnam during the war, giving it a historical connection that went far beyond its mechanical specifications or rarity as a high-performance vehicle. This military connection added layers of historical importance that elevated the car from being simply a rare Mustang variant to being a piece of American history with documented service during one of the country's most significant military conflicts. Collins has openly admitted that selling the Lawn Man Mustang was one of his biggest regrets in the automotive business, acknowledging that he should have held on to the car rather than letting it go at a Barrett-Jackson auction for $116,000. His regret becomes even more understandable when you consider that the same type of vehicle has since sold for prices exceeding $2 million, meaning Collins essentially gave up a potential profit of nearly $2 million by selling too early in the car's appreciation cycle. The story of the Lawn Man Mustang demonstrates Collins's incredible eye for spotting undervalued classics long before the broader collector car market recognizes their true worth. His ability to acquire such a historically significant and mechanically rare vehicle for less than $100,000 shows the kind of market knowledge and timing that separates successful car dealers from casual collectors. The fact that Collins was able to recognize the potential value of this particular superboss when others might have seen it as just another modified Mustang speaks to his deep understanding of what makes certain vehicles truly special in the eyes of serious collectors. Fact 12. He sold a 7-Up car with NBA history. Dennis Collins once owned and sold one of the most unusual promotional vehicles in automotive history, a 1997 Up Special Edition Mustang that fetched $82,500 at auction, largely because of its incredible backstory involving the National Basketball Association and one of the most creative marketing campaigns ever devised by a soft drink company. This wasn't just another limited edition Mustang with special paint and graphics. It was a car that had been specifically built to serve as the grand prize in an elaborate promotional contest that combined basketball skills with soft drink marketing in a way that had never been attempted before or since. The promotional campaign that made this Mustang so special worked like this. Fans attending NBA games would bring bottle caps from 7-Up bottles with them to the arena, and during designated promotional periods, random cap numbers would be selected from those brought by attendees. If your bottle cap number got picked, you would get the opportunity to attempt a half-court shot on the actual NBA court. And if you successfully made that extremely difficult shot, you would win the car. This meant that the Mustang wasn't just a promotional vehicle sitting in a showroom, it was literally the prize that someone could have won by demonstrating exceptional basketball shooting skills in front of thousands of fans. What made Collins' particular 7-Up Mustang even more valuable and historically significant was its unique provenance and the circumstances of how it came to exist. Collins explained that his 7-Up car was actually a Ford executive's personal vehicle that had been picked up directly from the factory on a trailer, meaning it never went through normal dealership channels and had essentially no miles on it when it entered the promotional program. This factory direct delivery gave the car a level of originality and documentation that most promotional vehicles lack. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of this car was what Collins discovered in its trunk. The largest collection of 7-Up memorabilia that had ever been assembled in connection with the promotional program that ultimately got canceled. This memorabilia was so rare and extensive that Collins noted several big Mustang collectors wanted the car not only for what it was as an automobile, but specifically for all the promotional items in the trunk that they had never seen before and likely never would see again. Fact 13. He set 6 world records in one day. Dennis Collins accomplished something that had never been done before in the collector car auction world when he sold 6 of his Ford Mustangs at the Barrett-Jackson Scottsdale auction in 2017, with each car setting a new world record price for its specific model and year. This wasn't just a successful day at auction. It was a complete rewriting of the record books for Fox Body Mustangs, a category of cars that most collectors had previously considered relatively affordable compared to the classic muscle cars from the 1960s and early 70s. The specific cars that broke world records during Collins's remarkable auction day included a 1994 Ford Mustang GT convertible that sold for $44,000, a 1989 Mustang LX hatchback 5.0 that brought $71,500, a 1999 Mustang 35th Anniversary Convertible Limited Edition that fetched $55,000, a 1990 Ford Mustang Convertible 7-Up Limited Edition that commanded $82,500, a 1999 Triple White LX Convertible that sold for $44,000, and a 1985 Ford Mustang SVO hatchback that brought $63,800. What made these record-breaking prices even more remarkable was Collins' explanation for why his cars commanded such extraordinary amounts compared to other similar Mustangs that had sold at previous auctions. Collins stated that his cars represented some of the best Fox body Mustangs in the world, and some of the rarest examples available anywhere. But equally important was the fact that they had barely any miles on them. This combination of exceptional rarity, pristine condition, and extremely low mileage created a perfect storm that drove bidders to unprecedented price levels for these particular models. Collins had spent years methodically hunting down and acquiring what he considered to be the finest examples of Fox body Mustangs available, often focusing on cars that had been stored rather than driven and maintained in showroom condition throughout their lives. His success at the Barrett-Jackson auction proved that his eye for quality and his patience in waiting for the right cars had paid off dramatically, as he essentially created a new price ceiling for an entire category of Mustangs that had previously been considered much less valuable than their classic muscle car predecessors. Fact 14. His father was a mechanic. Who started it all? Dennis Collins's extraordinary career in the automotive world didn't happen by accident. It was directly influenced by his father, Jim Collins, who worked as a professional mechanic and essentially served as young Dennis's first and most important automotive instructor. Growing up in a small town in Texas, Dennis had the unique advantage of having a father whose daily work revolved around diagnosing, repairing, and maintaining all kinds of vehicles, which meant that the Collins household was naturally centered around automotive knowledge and hands-on mechanical experience from the time Dennis was old enough to hold a wrench. The influence of having a mechanic for a father went far beyond just casual exposure to cars and trucks. Dennis spent countless hours in his father's garage, absorbing not just technical knowledge about how vehicles work, but also developing the kind of intuitive understanding of automotive systems that can only come from direct, hands-on experience with real mechanical problems and solutions. This early exposure to professional-level automotive work gave Dennis a foundation of practical knowledge that most car enthusiasts never acquire, even after years of working on their own vehicles as a hobby. Dennis's commitment to learning the automotive trade extended beyond just hanging around his father's garage and into his formal education, where he became a member of his school's auto mechanics club. This participation in organized automotive education demonstrates that even as a young student, Dennis was already treating his interest in cars and mechanical systems as more than just a casual hobby. He was actively seeking out additional opportunities to expand his knowledge and skills in automotive technology and repair techniques. The combination of having a professional mechanic as a father and actively participating in formal automotive education programs gave Dennis a comprehensive understanding of both the theoretical and practical aspects of automotive work. This early foundation in mechanical knowledge and hands-on experience would prove invaluable throughout his later career. Whether he was evaluating potential purchases for his dealership, overseeing restoration projects, or simply understanding what made certain vehicles special or valuable in the collector car market. The time Dennis spent learning from his father, Jim Collins, in that garage essentially served as an extended apprenticeship that prepared him for a lifetime of success in the automotive business. Fact 15. He met Richard Rawlings on a motorcycle adventure. The partnership between Dennis Collins and Richard Rawlings that would eventually make them both famous on Fast and Loud actually began in 1996 during a Harley-Davidson invitational ride that had nothing to do with cars and everything to do with motorcycles and the open road. This cross-country motorcycle adventure took the riders from Dallas, Texas, all the way to Daytona Beach, Florida, covering hundreds of miles of American highways and providing plenty of time for conversations about their shared passions for anything with wheels and an engine. The Harley-Davidson Invitational wasn't just a casual weekend ride. It was an organized event that brought together serious motorcycle enthusiasts from across the country for what amounted to an epic road trip, covering multiple states and requiring several days of riding through varying weather conditions and terrain. This type of long-distance motorcycle adventure creates a unique bonding experience among participants, as riders depend on each other for support, share meals and accommodations along the route, and spend countless hours talking while covering the enormous distances between stops. During this extended motorcycle journey from Dallas to Daytona, Collins and Rawlings discovered that they had far more in common than just their love of Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Both men shared a deep passion for all types of automotive machinery, an entrepreneurial spirit that drove them to build their own businesses, and a competitive streak that would later manifest in their record-breaking cross-country driving attempts and their willingness to take on ambitious automotive projects that other people considered impossible or impractical. The friendship that developed during this motorcycle adventure proved to be remarkably durable and mutually beneficial, lasting for decades and eventually evolving into the professional partnership that made them both television celebrities. What started as a chance meeting between two motorcycle enthusiasts on a long-distance ride became the foundation for a business relationship that would involve buying and selling millions of dollars worth of classic cars, breaking land speed records, and entertaining television audiences around the world with their automotive adventures. The fact that their legendary partnership began with motorcycles rather than cars adds an interesting dimension to their story and demonstrates how shared adventures and common interests can create lasting bonds that extend far beyond the lures. Original circumstances that brought people together.